Coming up on Sports Desk, it's easy as 1-2-3 for the Hawks in Game 1 of the Campbell Final. Ali Deed, almost a gem in racing's second jewel. And Ken Griffey Jr. provides some of the muscle for the Mariners at the Sky Dome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Gino Reda. It is nice to have you here. This time last year, the North Stars had a 1-0 lead over the Penguins in the Stanley Cup Final. Things running a little behind schedule in the 91-92 season. 4 teams still alive, and the conference finals are just now getting underway. We begin, first of all, Chicago Stadium. Game number 1 of the Campbell Conference Final. The Oilers facing the Blackhawks for the 4th time in postseason play. Edmonton has won all 3 previous series, including a sweep back in 1983. And the Hawks strike just 47 seconds into the series. Puck comes to Steve Larmer off the beautiful tic-tac-toe play. Larmer puts it in and gives the Blackhawks a 1-0 lead. But Edmonton replies quickly. Joe Murphy feeds Dave Manson. Manson one-times it, beats Belfour, and ties the game at 1. Scott Mellenby gets a good look at the rafters of Chicago Stadium after a nice hip check from Igor Kravchuk. Later in the first, Dirk Graham sets up Jeremy Roenick. Roenick spins, puts the backhand upstairs, 2-1 Chicago. In the second period, Hawks come out flying. Another Oiler giveaway, 2-0. It's Rob Brown to Mike Peluso. Bounces off Ranford's butt, just barely crosses the goal line. Don Kaharski's there to call it a goal immediately, 3-2 Blackhawks. Then off a great pass by Steve Larmer to Jeremy Roenick, all alone, tucks it in. Second of the game, 4-2. Steve Smith has a power play marker on a screenshot that Ranford never sees. 3 goals in 1 minute and 26 seconds. A new Hawks playoff record, 5-2. Third period, Hawks don't let up. Kravchuk shows his offensive tools, then gets hammered by Bernie Nichols, 7-2 Chicago. Later on, Larmer, the breakaway, snaps it by Ranford upstairs, and the fans at the stadium remind the Oiler goalie of his 8 goals against on the night. Not a great start for Billy Ranford. Mind you, didn't get a lot of support. Chicago wins at 8-2, takes a 1-0 series lead in the Campbell Conference Final. Manson and McTavish for the Oilers for Chicago. Larmer with a pair, Roenick with a pair, Peluso, Smith, Goulet, and Kravchuk. The Oilers managed only 19 shots on goal. With more, here's Ken Chillibeck.
Going into this series, Oilers coach Ted Green felt one of the keys would be Jeremy Roenick. Well, that prediction came true as Roenick scored a pair of goals, but it also turned out to be Roenick's line mate with a big game, Steve Larmer, with a pair of goals, too.
Well, our game is forechecking and taking the body, and that doesn't mean just guys like Palouse and Jocelyn and Stewie Grimson and Dirk. I mean, it means everybody, and in order for our team to be successful, we have to have everybody playing the same way.
We created a lot of cough-ups, a lot of offensive opportunities, and we continued tonight, and it seemed to work tonight. So, like I said again, we have to make sure that we stay on our game plan and raise our game another level on Monday.
We got steamrolled tonight. We got beat by a team that was very hungry, a team that was well prepared. We didn't handle the pressure very well at all. We gave away the puck many times under pressure, and we gave away the puck in our own zone and returned it over in our own zone without pressure.
We gave up the puck, and it cost us. I don't know if the forechecking really had anything to do with it. The times that we gave up the puck when we were by the forechecking, and we just made foolish plays, and it hurt us tonight.
It continues to be a great playoff run for the Chicago Blackhawks. 8 straight victories and counting, and you can't understate the importance of winning this series opener. Ken Chillibeck, TSN in Chicago.
The Wales Conference Final gets underway Sunday night at the Igloo in Pittsburgh. A rematch of last year's final that saw the Penguins take it in 6. It marked the first time in 3 meetings that Pittsburgh got by Boston in the playoffs. The series also saw Ulf Samuelsson deliver a cheap shot to Cam Neely, a hit that hurt him so badly. Neely still hasn't fully recovered. The Boston Bruins haven't forgotten.
I mean, as much as I don't like Ulf Samuelsson, he's a good hockey player. I mean, you can't take that away from him. He plays hard. He hits everybody, whether it's, the 50-goal scorer or a meathead. He's a wanted man around the league, for what he's done. He plays dirty, he plays chippy, and he does things behind guys' backs. And he played that way in Hartford, and I'm sure he played that way when he was back in Sweden or whatever.
To the 117th running of the Preakness Stakes. Allie.
Coming up on Sports Desk, the Bruins and Penguins collide in Game 1 of the Wales Conference Final. The Memorial Cup goes right down to the wire between the Sioux and Kamloops. And explaining what went wrong for Silken Laumann in Germany.
Sports Desk, brought to you by Mazda. It just feels right. And by Gillette Sensor, for the best shave a man could get.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sports Desk with Vic Rauter. I'm Chris Sedens. A busy half hour coming up. Let's get right to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the story in Game 1 of the Wales Conference Final, not so much who was on the ice, Vic, but who wasn't.
Exactly. Thanks, Chris. Hello, everybody. It is going to be the kind of series where you want to pay attention to the pregame scratches. Pittsburgh, as you know, still missing Mario Lemieux with that broken hand. Could be back, though, they say, for Game 4 or 5. And, of course, Joe Mullen out for the rest of the season, banged up knee. Over in the Boston dressing room, Ray Bourque was still nursing his broken hand and questionable. Yeah, you've got two teams, black and blue and bruised, in Game 1 at the Igloo. And Penguins get on the board first. Brian Trottier will beat Andy Moog down the wing, and Pittsburgh's first shot on goal gives them a 1-0 lead. And then with the fans getting ready to cheer their power play Sharks, well, it's the Bruins who spoil it. Short-handed Bob Sweeney pots the giveaway, beating Tom Barrasso 1-1. Then Boston takes the lead. Tendonato left all alone, side of the net. Watch him here, upstairs, and it is 2-1. Physical game as well. Look at Steve Leach on Jim Payak along the board. Second period, Andy Moog starts to come up big for Boston. Yuri Hirdina, glove save by Moog. And then Kevin Stevens will break in. Moog, another glove save. Under a minute to play, second period. Joe Juneau feeds Glenn Wesley at the point. Shot fools Barrasso, 3-2 Boston. However, the Pens tie it midway through the third. A lot of pressure by Pittsburgh. Finally, Sean McEachran will bang in the loose puck through all kinds of bodies and legs. It goes to OT. And in OT, guess who gets the goal? Jaromir Jagr. Between the legs of Andy Moog. Penguins win Game 1, the final, 4-3. And there you see Ray Bourque on the sidelines. The Bruins actually outshot the Penguins 41-31. Game 2, Tuesday, again in Pitt.
The Campbell Conference Final is set to continue Monday night in Chicago. The Hawks open the series with a huge 8-2 win over Edmonton, their 8th straight postseason win. Ken Chillibeck previews Game 2.
Game 1, Mike Keenan's Chicago Blackhawks gave a lesson in forechecking. Now, Keenan stresses team discipline, and his club played it to a T. They jumped on the Oilers early, causing turnovers. And taking advantage of the giveaways was Steve Larmer with 2 goals and 2 assists, and his line mate, Jeremy Roenick, with the same totals.
That's what we tried to focus on. You know, we knew it's worked for us so far in the playoffs. We got on St. Louis' defense hard and Detroit's, and, you know, we created a lot of cough-ups, a lot of offensive opportunities.
I thought as the game progressed, we were forechecking very strongly. I thought that we were taking away their offense and their breakouts from their defensive zone.
The site is a suburban Chicago arena. It was originally supposed to be an optional practice for the Oilers. But after the embarrassment of losing 8-2, unless you were injured, you were skating. Coaching staff looking to a solution to the aggressive Blackhawk forechecking.
We know what it was from. It was from our turnovers. We had the puck at least 5 of their 8 goals, and we gave it to them. And if we're going to continue to play like that, it's going to be a short series.
The Oilers line of Joe Murphy, Bernie Nichols, and Vincent Damphousse were expected to lead the club offensively in the series. But in Game 1, Damphousse was on the ice for 3 of the Hawks' goals. Murphy for 4 goals against. It was Larmer and Roenick doing the damage as a result of their checking.
They outscored us, and we can't have that happen. We gotta play better than these guys and try to come out with every shift and try to outplay them.
One adjustment the Oilers know they have to make is to the smaller ice surface in Chicago's stadium. Oilers coach Ron Lowe feels they were caught off guard in a lot of cases, but he says they'll be better prepared for the Blackhawks forechecking in Game 2. It better be, or they face a likelihood of being down 2-0 in this series. Ken Cholobek, TSN in Chicago.
Tears of joy, tears of sadness. One the tears of a winner, the other tears of a loser. You knew there were going to be both as the Memorial Cup came down to a one-game final. Kamloops and Sault Ste. Marie for the National Junior Hockey Championship, and they're playing it in Seattle. In the first period, Zach Boyer from behind the net. He'll put it out to Mike Mathers, and Mathers gives Kamloops the 1-0 lead. 32 seconds later, Steve Hewling stopped by Kevin Hodgson. Todd Johnson is there. Rebound. Blazers up 2-0. With the score 3-0 Kamloops, Chris Simon with some great stick handling here. Puts it by Corey Hirsch from in front. Greyhounds trail 3-1. 45 seconds later, Simon at it again. This time he banks it in off Colin Miller's glove. Sault Ste. Marie down 3-2. Simon says, Sioux coming back. Third period, Kamloops leading 4-3. Simon from the slot. Simon says, tie it 4-4. It looked to be going into OT until Scott Niedermeyer sends Boyer in all alone.
Up ahead to Boyer. In on goal. There it is. Score!
There it is indeed. Blazers take a 5-4 lead, and yes, Kamloops goes on to win the Memorial Cup in their fourth try, 5-4 over Sault Ste. Marie. Niedermeyer, the tournament MVP. Mathers of Kamloops, the leading scorer with 10 points. More from Seattle now, and here's Gord Miller.
The Seattle Coliseum is quiet now, but earlier today it was filled with hockey fans who saw one for the Memorial Cup history books. The Kamloops Blazers and Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds held a classic final, one decided in the very final seconds in most dramatic fashion.
Kowalski drops it back, broken up by Niedermeyer. Up ahead to Boyer, in on goal, there it is, scores!
I thought destiny was on our side before the 14-second mark of the third period, but so be it.
I felt it was meant to be because every time we had a big game, we came up big, and I thought maybe destiny was on our side this year, and that goal really secured that.
It's great. It's unbelievable because, you know, I think a lot of us have grown up together. You know, they say the ages between 16 and 20 are the toughest years of your life. You know, you grow up, you're teenagers, and we're away from home, away from our family, our friends, and you know, I grew up with these guys, and really I have friends for life, and you know, I think that there's not one bit of hatred on this team or whatever. You know, everybody's friends, and it's just a great feeling that we can finish it off like this.
Over the last 10 years, the Kamloops Blazers had won more games than any other team in junior hockey. They had the NHL players, they had the stars to prove that they were indeed a tremendous franchise. But now they have the symbol that everyone looks for, a Memorial Cup championship, one they'll savor for a very long time. That's it from Seattle. Now let's go back to Sports Desk.
Thank you, Gord. Stay with us. Still to come on Sports Desk. Terrible.
Today on Sports Desk, the Oilers and Blackhawks tangle in Game 2 of the Campbell Conference Final. The Lakers look no further than their own bench in finding a new head coach. And we'll have some fun with our TSN Plays of the Week.
Sports Desk is brought to you by GM Parts and Service, the expert choice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Desk. Also ahead on the show, Twins knock the Blue Jays around. We've got all the scores and highlights from baseball. And this year's NBA MVP was a popular choice. We'll have the story. But first to the NHL and Game 2 of the Campbell Conference Final between Edmonton and Chicago. After being embarrassed 8-2 in Game 1 of this series, the Oilers vowed that the Oilers vowed that Game 2 would be a different story. They talked about needing more of an effort from Nichols, Murphy, and Damphus. They stressed that they had to tighten up defensively. It would all have to come together for the Oilers if they hope to take a split home to Northlands for the Game 3. Well, the tone of this game was set early. Chris Chelios lays the body on Craig McTavish. He responds by hitting Chelios in the face. He was bleeding, then some more rough stuff. Steve Larmer with a big open ice hit on Kelly Buckberger, both down to the ice. Midway through the first, the Oilers open the scoring. Anatoly Semenov moves in all alone, beats Belfour, and Edmonton goes up 1-0. They add to that lead a few minutes later. Bernie Nichols takes a pass on his backhand, goes to his forehand, beats Belfour, and the Oilers are looking good. 2-0 to score. Later on in the first, the Hawks come close. Roenick slides it through the crease, but it goes right off the post, not in. Late in the first, the Hawks get one on the power play. Roenick to Steve Larmer. He beats Bill Ranford. Chicago now trailing by a goal. 2-1 Edmonton leading. Ranford solid in goal in the second period. A big pad save on Steve Larmer. Late in the second, good scoring chance for Edmonton, but Peter Klima puts it in over the wide open net. Now, early in the third, the Hawks tie it up. Michel Goulet over to Steve Larmer, and he ties it up at 2. Midway through the third, Kelly Buckberger will cut in. His shot slides through Belfour's legs and through the crease. Then it slides back along the goal line. It stays out of the net. Late in the third, Chicago gets the deciding goal. Goulet redirects Steve Larmer's shot. The Blackhawks went up 3-2. They would add another and go on to win 4-2, taking a 2-0 series lead heading to Edmonton. So scoring for the Oilers, Semenov and Nichols. For Chicago, big night for Steve Larmer, 2 goals and assists. Also scoring Goulet and Mateau. Now this really tells the story. Chicago outshot Edmonton 45-14, and the Blackhawks are hot. They have not lost since the third game of the first round. Now with more from Chicago, here's Ken Chillibeck.
It was the Blackhawks' 9th straight playoff victory, and to say it was an impressive one is a bit of an understatement. It was a great team effort, but one player continues to stand out for the Blackhawks for the second game in a row. Steve Larmer, who scored 2 goals and assisted on Goulet's game winner.
He's one of our best players, and certainly you have to rely on your big players to come up with big plays and to rise to a better level.
He's a model of consistency in this game. He's put in almost 800 straight games, and he comes to work every single game. He didn't get a lot of luck during the season. He had a lot of opportunities. He had a lot of ice time, but he just didn't seem to get that bounce that he usually gets.
It's nice to be playing well this time of the year, but I think the big reason why our team's been so successful is that everybody's playing well right now, and that's important. It makes everybody's job as an individual a lot easier when the team's playing well.
A lot of the credit's got to go to Roenick that made the couple of plays, and Goulet. He's going to the net and they're making the plays, and it's more credit to their guys being able to make the play, and I think that's the thing that's hurting us.
There's little question the Oilers have dug themselves into a big hole. And their netminder, Bill Ranford, maybe summed it up best by saying they've been embarrassed here in the opening 2 games in Chicago. They can only hope that home ice advantage will help turn things around. Ken Chillibeck, TSN in Chicago.
Well, home ice advantage may help. This series now moves back to Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. Game 3 between the Oilers and Blackhawks will be played on Wednesday. It may have taken Jaromir Jagr a while to get going this year in the playoffs, but it looks like he may have finally hit his stride. Jagr scored the winning goal in overtime Sunday night to give the Penguins a 4-3 win over the Bruins and a 1-0 lead in the series. Tuesday night, Game 2 of the Wales Conference Final. Expect a tougher Bruins club because they hope to have their captain back in the lineup. Ray Bourque may play. You may remember he was knocked out in the Adams final after breaking his right middle finger. Pittsburgh may be in the midst of defending the Stanley Cup, but whatever happens, they will definitely be sporting a new look next season. The skating penguin with that hockey stick is going to be gone. In its place, a new penguin will be joined with the city's black and gold triangles.
Coming up on Sports Desk, a successful return for Super Mario as the Penguins face the Bruins in Game 2. The Angels' Bert Weileven returns to the mound after a 2-year absence. And Boris Becker will not be returning to the French Open this year.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Chris Sedens. Also coming up in the next half hour, the Jays try to snap a 4-game losing streak, and the Bulls and Cavs tip off the NBA's Eastern Conference Final. But first, to Game 2 of the NHL's Wales Conference Final. And broken bones take time to heal, but when you're in the middle of the Stanley Cup playoffs, time is one thing that you don't have an awful lot of. Ray Bourque missed 3 games with a broken right middle finger. He returned to the Boston lineup with that finger taped to his index finger and specially padded. Mario Lemieux suffered a broken hand less than 2 weeks ago. Doctors said it would be at least a month before he could even grip a hockey stick again. Tuesday night, Game 2, Wales Conference Final. Bourque is back for Boston, and Super Mario steps on the ice with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they let their presence be known early. Bourque roughs up Jaromir Jagr. Glenn Wesley welcomes back Big Mario with a shove in the corner. Early first period, Bruins open the score in 59 seconds in. Adam Oates to Glenn Murray, and Boston's up 1-0. Later, Penguins tied. Paul Stanton shoots from the point. It's tipped by Troy Loney in front. Game tied at 1. Now late in the period, the Penguins take the lead. Ron Francis to Jaromir Jagr. Jagr takes the pass and has a wide open net to score the backhand into. 2-1 Penguins after 20 minutes. Second period, Pittsburgh strikes again. Mario Lemieux to Tocchet. The give and go with Stevens, and it's 3-1 Penguins. Later in the second, Barrasso comes up big. Glenn Murray has him down and out, but there's Tom Barrasso with the big glove hand save, and Rick Bowness can't believe his eyes. Third period, Mario goes to work. At the side of the net, he goes upstairs. 4-2 Penguins. And as the clock will wind down to end this game, Super Mario will add 1 into the empty net. So 2 goals, bringing his playoff total to 22 points. 1 back of Joe Murphy for the league lead. The Penguins win Game 2 5-2 and take a commanding 2-0 lead in this conference final. Lemieux had 3 points in his return. Ray Bourque had an assist. It was Murray and Oates, the goal scorers for Boston. Loney, Jagr, and Tocchet had the others for Pittsburgh. Also interesting, the Penguins' power play 0 for 10 in the series before Mario's return. Lemieux contributing 3 power play goals. Contributing to the 3 power play goals.
You always think about your injury, especially when you have a broken hand. Once you get in traffic, you're always concerned about getting hit, but you know, went through all right. I was able to go on the ice and put that in the back of my mind for the most part of the game, and went pretty well.
Was this strictly your decision, Mario? Did the doctors try to talk you out of this? How did that happen? Was it your decision?
No, it was certainly my final decision. I think it should be up to the players to tell the coaching staff and the organization how they feel.
The Bruins unhappy with referee Denny Morrell. He gave Bob Sweeney a major penalty for this third period hit on Ulf Samuelsson. After the game, Mike Milbury was livid.
Oh, another day at the office, Dennis. Another day at the office. That's all it is. Just another day at the office, Dennis. Just take your paycheck and go home.
I don't think he cost us the game. I mean, we had our chances, and but I mean, he put us behind the 8 ball early, and then you know, as I said, when we climbed back in, he just kind of took a little bit of wind out of our sails with a questionable call.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers lost Game 2 of the Campbell Conference Final 4-2, but don't let the score fool you. The only reason this game was close was goaltender Bill Ranford. Oilers were outshot 45-14. Game 3 between the Hawks and Oilers is set to go Wednesday night at the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. The Hawks with a 2-0 series lead. Ken Chillibeck has our preview.
The Blackhawks are hot, the Oilers are not. That is a story in a nutshell. Blackhawks' big line of Jeremy Roenick, Steve Larmer, and Michel Goulet has been doing its job, that's for sure, scoring goals. The 3 have collected 16 points in the first 2 games.
We thrive on our defensive and our forechecking and our hard work, and we have to make sure that we get all over them as fast as possible. And you know, the pressure's kind of off us now. We just have to come in here and play a solid, consistent game, and you know, try and get 1 or 2 out of here.
Or maybe get at the last losing timeout before the game starts.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, the Oilers' top trio going into the series, Vincent Damphousse, Joe Murphy, and Bernie Nichols, has been silent. Nichols' goal in Game 2 was the first the line has scored. Altogether, the 3 have managed only 4 points total.
As a line, we obviously feel for us to help the team, we definitely have to score, no question.
We've made a real strong commitment to defense, and we know that we have to stop those people to be successful. They are good offensive players. They have good transition game, and their team relies on their offense.
Now, Oilers coach Ted Green says he needs every player, quote, to bust his butt if they hope to get back in the series. One player he is looking for more offense from is Esa Tikkanen. Tikkanen has only 1 point so far and an assist in Game 1.
We need 20 people to do the job. You're not going to do it with just one guy. I don't care who it is who comes to the forefront, but you need 20 leaders. You need 20 guys who are going to go out there and play and do the things you have to do to win.
Now, forechecking has been the big key to the success of the Blackhawks. They've been relentless. It's caused turnovers, resulting in goals. Only the outstanding saves from Bill Ranford kept Game 2 from being lopsided. A return to Northland's Coliseum and the larger ice surface should give the Oilers more skating room. At least the Oilers are hoping that is the case.
They're in for a fight. They're in for a tough fight. We don't quit too easy.
Despite trailing the Chicago Blackhawks 2-0, the Oilers do not feel like they're out of it by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing Coach Ted Green feels they have to do more is challenge Chicago netminder Eddie Belfour a lot more. And there's little doubt that challenge has to come from the Oilers' goal scorers. Ken Chillibeck, TSN in Edmonton.
Okay, thank you, Ken. An ugly new twist in the...
Today on Sports Desk, the Hawks are aiming towards a series sweep against the Oilers. The Jays try everything to rebound from a 5-game losing streak. And Dave Barr tries to rebound from a bad start.
Sports Desk is brought to you by Makita Canada Incorporated, Canada's leading manufacturer of professional power tools.
Welcome to Sports Desk, everyone. I'm Teresa Hergert. We've got plenty to talk about on the show, so let's get right to it. We're going to begin with the Campbell Conference Final. Well, despite the heroics of Oiler goaltender Bill Ranford, Edmonton found themselves trailing Chicago 2-0. The Oilers were hoping that returning home to Northland's larger ice surface might give them the edge that they would need. Well, if anything, there was ideal hockey weather. A spring storm had blanketed Alberta. Kurt Browning got things going by skating to the national anthem. First period, Hawks pressing. Dirk Graham shoots, but Ranford makes the save with another Chicago player out in front. Nope, not going in. Later on, just 2 minutes, 8 seconds in, Bernie Nichols out in front swipes the loose puck in by Ed Belfour, his 8th of the spring, and that put the Oilers up 1-0. Still in the first, Edmonton again. Mark Lamb to Craig McTavish. He one times it past Belfour, his 3rd of the playoffs, and puts the Oilers up 2-0. Things were looking good. Second period, Chicago's on the move. Edmonton leading 2-1. Michel Goulet flicks it in front of Rob Brown. He bats it in out of the air, his 1st of the playoffs, and that tied it up at 2. Late in the period, the puck comes to Chris Chelios at the point. His shot hits Craig Muni, deflects in, and the Hawks go ahead in the game 3-2 after 40 minutes. Third period, a big Chicago giveaway. Puck comes to Brian Glynn, and his knuckleball beats Belfour. Game tied at 3, and it sent it into overtime. Now just 2:45 into the extra frame, Chris Chelios. His shot tipped in by Jeremy Roenick. Ranford couldn't get it. The Hawks win 4-3 the final. They now take a stranglehold on the series with a 3-0 lead. Taking a look at the goal scorers. Brian Noonan, Keith Brown, Chris Chelios, and Jeremy Roenick for Chicago, his 9th of the year of the playoffs. And for Edmonton, Bernie Nichols, Craig McTavish, and Brian Glynn. You know, only 2 teams have come back from 3-0 series deficits. That was the 42 Leafs and the 75 Islanders. Things are not looking good for the Oilers. From Edmonton, here is Ken Chillibeck.
If there was a game the Oilers probably had the best chance of winning, this should have been it. And they certainly played their best hockey so far of the series. But as Mike Keenan said after the game, if there's a big goal to be scored, his best players are the ones that have to do it. And that certainly was the case with Jeremy Roenick's overtime winner.
You know, when a team is going like we're going, you're going to get every break. And we got every break tonight, and, you know, it shows by the victory.
We got back playing our game, and we settled down, and we come in here, and a big good thing about it is we come in here in overtime, and we were confident going back out in the ice that we were going to win this hockey game. You can see it in everybody's eyes.
Well, we came out, and we started the way we wanted to, and everything went well for us. We scored a couple of goals, got a good lead, and in the second period, they just came right at us. I mean, they've been playing really good, and we had a little break in the second period, and that's all they needed.
Well, it's that time of the year, you know. I mean, the Stanley Cup is a pretty precious thing, and obviously they're hungry for it. They're playing, they're executing phenomenally. They're doing all the little things, and not that we aren't trying, we just aren't executing as well as they are.
It's now 10 straight playoff victories in a row for the Chicago Blackhawks. That ties an NHL record set by the Boston Bruins back in 1970. A victory Friday would not only give them a new place in the record books, but also give them a spot in the Stanley Cup Finals. Ken Cholobeck, TSN in Edmonton.
Tuesday night's Wales Conference Final appeared to be a medical miracle. After it was all over, Boston assistant GM Mike Milbury had some other choice words to describe it. He lost his cool after the game with referee Denny Morrell. Milbury now may be facing disciplinary action because of his outburst, but that is not his biggest problem because Boston is trailing Pittsburgh 2-0 in the Wales Conference Final. The Bruins will now return to the Garden for games 3 and 4. The Boston Bruins were going to have a tough time defeating the Pittsburgh Penguins even before this man returned to the lineup. And now, with Mario back and effective, winning the Wales Conference Championship is almost a pipe dream for Bruin fans.
I think me being there tonight maybe gave the team a little boost.
Ray Bourque's return to the Boston lineup on Tuesday night after missing 3 games with a broken finger will definitely help the Bruins for the remainder of the series. But the story of Game 2 was not the return of 2 of the game's best players. Instead, in Boston's eyes, it was the officiating. Assistant GM Mike Milbury was furious at referee Denny Morrell for the job he did, and after the game, he let him know.
All year, so that everybody in this organization to give a team a chance. Give a guy a chance, Dennis. You're stolen your.
All the penalties disrupted the flow of the game for us. From the time we got going, there were penalties.
I'd like to say that he had a bad night, but I don't think he had a bad night. I think that's just the way it is.
I mean, not only for our team, but some of the calls you see him, I don't know, in a playoff game, kind of questionable sometimes, but hey, that's the way it goes. Can't say much on that.
There is more to this series than the return of the superstars or the bad officiating. Late in the third period, Bob Sweeney had a couple of run-ins with public enemy number 1, Ulf Samuelsson.
If I didn't see him, you know, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I'd probably be in the hospital because he took a run at me. He had no regard for the puck. Puck wasn't even close to me. So I'm just trying to protect myself. You know, he probably thought I wasn't looking. That's the only reason he took a run at me. Just look at the replay, and he led with his fat head anyway, so just look at the replay.
Game 3 goes Thursday night in Beantown, and if it's not over already, it will be if Boston doesn't win Game 3.
Today on Sports Desk, Mario Lemieux and company look to stick-handle their way to a 3-0 series lead. A California Angels bus crash leaves manager Buck Rogers in hospital. And Jeff Courtnall's season is over. Can he score with double overtime? Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Sports Desk. I'm Gord Miller. Also coming up in this half hour, Mark Rippon is set to talk contract with the Toronto Argos. And we'll have highlights of Thursday night's NBA playoff action. But up first, Mario takes his show on the road for Game 3 of the Wales Conference Final. Well, for a guy who isn't supposed to be playing, Mario Lemieux is certainly doing a decent imitation of a world-class hockey player, one who can dominate a game like no one else and make those around him look pretty good, too. Last year, Lemieux was the top scorer in the postseason. He needed only 3 points Thursday night to take over top spot this year, while his Penguins were looking for a commanding 3-0 series lead against the Bruins. Dave Poulin gets the job of shadowing Mario Lemieux, gets away here, heads up the rush, drops for Jaromir Jagr, over to Kevin Stevens, and it's a 1-0 Pittsburgh lead. Now, Penguins on the power play. Ron Francis from behind the net, out front to Stevens, who beats Andy Moog far side. 2-0 Penguins. Later in the period, Lemieux to Stevens, who flips it over Moog. Natural hat trick for Kevin Stevens. Pittsburgh leads 3-0. Before the period was over, Tom Barrasso robbed Stephen Leach from in close, keeping the Bruins off the board. Second period, Penn still leading 3-0. Brian Trottier takes the pass from Troy Loney, beats Andy Moog between the legs. 4-0 Penguins. and Tom Barrasso on his game. Vladimir Ruzicka all alone in front. But it's Barrasso who comes up rosy with the great glove save. Later in the period, Lemieux breaking down the wing. Ruzicka pulls him down. But Lemieux keeps stick handling. This would have been the goal of the decade. Lemieux just missed scoring. Now, third period, Joe Juneau had finally put Boston on the board. Pittsburgh leading 4-1. Jagr to Lemieux to Stevens. Goal number 4 of the game, 11th of the playoffs. Pittsburgh wins 5-1. The Penguins have won a franchise record 6 straight playoff games. Lemieux and Jagr had 3 points each. Barrasso 30 saves. Stevens had the 4 goals. Trottier had 1. Joe Juneau responds for Boston. And hey, it's been pretty easy for the Penguins so far.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. We saw some of the games against Montreal. They played very well, but you know, we've been playing very well too. You have to give us a little bit of credit. We played well in the last 2 games at least.
Right now, they're playing great hockey, and you know, they're making it really tough on us to get anything established. And not only offensively are they playing well, they're playing well defensively, and Barrasso's really playing strong. So they're really hitting on all cylinders right now.
We're guys that's supposed to score goals and are offensive players, and you know, it's just great to play with them. But like you said, it's always nice to get on a roll here, and hopefully we can take this right into the next game.
And if they win that next game Saturday, it's off to the Stanley Cup Final for the 2nd straight year as the Pens look for the sweep against the Bees. In the Campbell Conference, the Edmonton Oilers and Chicago Blackhawks are in unfamiliar positions. The Oilers haven't been down 3-0 in a series since 1983 when they were swept by the Islanders in the Stanley Cup Final. The Hawks, meantime, are 1 win away from getting to the Stanley Cup Final. They haven't been there since 1973. Ken Chillibeck has a series update from Edmonton.
Now, one shot has put the Oilers in a real hole. It was Jeremy Roenick's goal in overtime in Game 3. The Blackhawks, as a result, lead the series 3-0. Let's face it, if the Oilers had scored instead, the story would have been entirely different. It's a long hill now to climb for Edmonton.
You never want to give anybody life, and we realize that 4th game is going to be the toughest, and like I said, the Oilers are a proud group of guys.
It's certainly not a place for a nervous chicken, but I'm a nervous coach. But at this point, it's time to dig down deep, try, and just give your best effort.
Now, Oilers coach Ted Green knows there is little left to be said to his players, and motivation comes from within. And according to Green, they're facing the biggest challenge the organization has ever faced.
One thing we've never done in this organization is give up, but we've never allowed anybody to quit. And the players here are bleeding themselves all year, and they're still not about to quit because we're down 3-0.
I feel a little bit responsible. You know, I want to help the team, and you know, my job is to provide offense and score goals, and I haven't scored a goal yet in the series, and you know, it hurts a little bit. I want to win real bad. I want to win as bad as anyone, and you know, I just wish I can contribute a little bit more, and you know, I'll try hopefully get something going in the 4th game.
Blackhawks coach Mike Keenan downplays the possible sweep by his club. He has his players playing, though, at their peak. One reason, a change in priority this season. This is what he was getting his team ready for.
We changed our approach a little bit. We wanted to prepare the club for Game 81 more than anything else.
I've played in some good teams, but I think right now we're playing as good as any team I've ever played on.
It'd be safe to say that winning 4 straight over the Edmonton Oilers is a priority for Mike Keenan's Chicago Blackhawks, because for one thing, it would give his team a bit of a break before the final series would start. But already they're talking about the number 5 instead of 4 straight, because it would be 5 straight victories for Chicago to win their first Stanley Cup in 31 years. Ken Chillibeck, TSN in Edmonton.
It's been 17 years since a team blew a 3-0 series lead. Teams have come back from this before, only twice in NHL history. The Dave King sweepstakes appear to be coming down to the...
Coming up on Sports Desk, it will be an All-American Stanley Cup final as the Oilers are swept aside by the Hawks. Dave King chooses the comforts of home and will coach the Calgary Flames. And the Expos are the first to fire their manager. Runnels is out, Alou is in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sports Desk. I'm Chris Sedens. Also coming up in the next half hour, baseball. The Jays face their old teammate, George Bell, with the Chicago White Sox at Comiskey Park. We'll have the highlights. And the St. John's Leafs, they make up for a couple of losses in St. John's, and they're back in their American Hockey League final against Adirondack. But first, to the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And the Chicago Blackhawks trying to wrap up a 4-game sweep in Edmonton on Friday night. A win Friday night would not only send the Hawks to the Stanley Cup final for the first time in 19 years, but also establish a new NHL record for playoff winning streak. Chicago had won 10 straight games entering Game 4 of the Campbell Conference Final. They were looking for the sweep, and they're pressing early. Steve Larmer is denied by Bill Ranford in the Oilers' net. Bad news for Chicago. Keith Brown forced to leave the game with an injured shoulder midway through the first period. A great individual effort by former Oilers Steve Smith. Rob Brown will bang home the rebound, and the Hawks are on the board. It's 1-0. Then the Oilers come undone in the second period. Bernie Nichols draws a 5-minute major for elbowing Brian Marchment. Then Norm McIver cross-checks Chris Chelios, giving Chicago a 2-man advantage, and they would capitalize on that. Jeremy Roenick from the circle rips the shot past Ranford to the glove side, and it's 2-0 Chicago. Then Brian Noonan will deflect a pass. 5th goal of the playoffs, first of the game, 3-0 Chicago. More to come. Short while later, Mike Hudson will redirect Igor Kravchuk's pass. 4-0 Chicago. The road continues. Oiler giveaway. Blackhawk breakaway. Noonan makes no mistake. His second of the game. 5-0 Chicago. Eddie Green congratulates Mike Keenan on a job well done. The Blackhawks peaking at just the right time. They win the game 5-1 and advance to the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 1973. Noonan with 2 goals. Brown, Roenick, Hudson had the others for Chicago. Kelly Buchberger with the lone goal for Edmonton. And speaking of 11th heaven for the Hawks, 11 consecutive wins. That is a single-season playoff record. They won 3 against St. Louis, then 4 straight against Detroit, then swept Edmonton in 4 straight. The Bruins, by the way, held the former record of 10 straight wins in the playoffs. They did that back in 1970. With a post-game report now from the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton, let's join TSN's Ken Chillivack.
It was an impressive effort by the Chicago Blackhawks as they knocked off the Oilers in 4 straight. They did very few things wrong. It was disciplined hockey at its best.
By having 20 guys working hard every night and playing through some difficult times, hard work pays off in the long run.
We knew it was a long journey, and we knew we had a long way to go, and you know, we've dealt with a lot of adversity over the course of the year. We've had trouble getting ourselves together, and I think we peaked at the right time. We've stuck to our system, we've stuck to our hard work, we've conditioned ourselves all year and prepared ourselves for playoffs, and there's no doubt at this point it's paid off, at least to this point.
I'm certainly not bad, or I guess I'm always disappointed. I always like to win, but I'm also very proud of what the team did. I'm proud that they jumped back from some of the tough times they had during the year. I remember a year ago, most of the newspapers in our town were saying great discontent, the end of the Oilers. All of a sudden, we jump into the Final Four this year, and we weren't there, but I think we made a good showing.
I hope Chicago goes all the way. I really do. They've got a hard-working team. They've got a team that's really committed. They're very physical, and they play the same way every shift, every night. They're certainly by far the better team in this series, and I bow to Chicago. They took away a lot of our game. They took away our power play. If I had to make some changes, but in hindsight, it's easy to do it all.
It was a record-setting performance by the Chicago Blackhawks. 11 straight playoff victories, a new NHL record. But more importantly, it advances them now to the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 1973. Ken Chillivack, TSN in Edmonton.
The Pittsburgh Penguins are looking for a sweep as well. They haven't lost in quite a while either. 3-0, they're up in this series, trying to wrap it up in Game 4. And that, of course, is coming up on Saturday night. Pittsburgh at Boston at the Garden. At the Boston Garden, rather. The Penguins with a chance to advance to the final to meet Chicago.
Ahead on Sports Desk, Mario is magnificent as the Penguins look to put away the Boston Bruins. Kelly Gruber is anything but magnificent as the Blue Jays take on the Chicago White Sox. And and Michael Jordan lights it up as the Bulls face the Cavaliers.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have got all kinds of highlights to show you, including Tim Wallach, right where Expo fans want him, the fast lane Blackhawks and all the golf and football. But we begin with two words that sum up the Wales final. No contest. The Penguins looked vastly superior, and there was really no reason to believe that as the season was winding down. The Penguins, in fact, finished with just 3 more points than Boston, but they look like they're 30 points better right now. They took a 3-0 series lead in the Game 4 on Saturday night at the Boston Garden. And the question wasn't really whether Pittsburgh would win. The question was, which way would they beat them? And you could tell early on the Penguins were coming out rolling. Watch the move by Jágr. So fast to the backhand. There was no room, but still he put it in. It's 1-0. Then Rick Tocchet and Brent Hughes collide. And Hughes gets the extra penalty. Rick Bowness can't believe it. He spent a lot of time complaining about the officiating. He should have been complaining about Mario Lemieux, saying, get rid of this guy, do something, but you can't stop him. That's Ray Bourque, but he plays Bourque beautifully. Bourque tries to hook him, can't do it. He's like a bull, and then he snaps one past Moog. Lemieux at the peak of his game, and Mike Milbury says, this is going to be a long night. Second period, Francis is a very nice feed to Paul Stanton. The Massachusetts native makes it 3-0. Then Lemieux plays Gord Murphy perfectly. Look at him turn on the Jets right there. Murphy caught flat-footed, tries to hook him, but you can't hook Mario Lemieux. He's unhookable. 4-0. Lemieux's 11th of the playoffs now. Time winding down. Hey, let's let everybody get in it. That's Jock Callender scoring. 5-1 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Barrasso says, yes, we swept them, and they certainly did. The Pittsburgh Penguins jump all over the Boston Bruins. 5-1 the final score. Really no contest at all. Lemieux had a pair, including his 11th. Jágr with his 9th. Stanton with just his 1st. Callender with his 1st, and Steve Leach had his 4th. By the way, the Penguins sweeping and the Blackhawks sweeping, it's only the 2nd time in history that the 2 semifinals have been swept. Penguins have now won 7 straight. That's a franchise record. And Francis says they really were thinking about the sweep.
You know, we knew we were in a good situation tonight, and you know, we wanted to capitalize on it, and you know, the guys came over with a big effort, got a good lead in the first period, and you know, played solid from then on out.
Well, we've won back-to-back Patrick Division championships now. We've won back-to-back conference championships now. It's not like we're done yet. I think everyone feels like there's one more level, there's one more notch that we want to be able to crank it down.
Every time you have a chance to play in the final and have a chance to win the cup, it's a great feeling, and it's the same thing this year. Guys want to go in the final, and you know, at least we have a shot at it again.
We're in a pretty good position. We gave ourselves a chance, I guess. That's all it takes. And you know, Chicago's going to be tough. It's going to be a damn good series, and I think it's going to be great for hockey. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get it started. You know, right now I don't want to really think about it tonight, but tomorrow we'll get back and watch them. You know, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll play golf tomorrow. Who knows?
Well, they can afford to take a little rest and then focus in on the Chicago Blackhawks. Great-looking series. Penguins have all kinds of talent. I just get the feeling maybe Pittsburgh, but then the more you think about it, the Blackhawks are rolling as well. So if that's not a non-committal, I don't think I know what is. Exactly what the league has to want. A great matchup. 2 blazing hot teams at the peaks of their games and contrasting styles. No one can wheel with the Penguins, but so far no one has handled the Blackhawks' aggressive style. The Hawks don't have the talent of the Penguins, but they are operating on all cylinders. As a matter of fact, if the Blackhawk machine was entered in the Indy 500, they might be the favorites.
What has made Team Blackhawk such a high-powered performer? For starters, great defense and hard work in the corners. It's all part of the work ethic Mike Keenan has been preaching.
You know, by having 20 guys working hard every night and playing through some difficult times, hard work pays off in the long run.
It's just hard work, determination, and the will to win, and that's what we're going on.
The most important parts of the finely tuned Blackhawk engine have been at peak performance as well, starting with Jeremy Roenick. He set up 4 goals and scored 4 on his own for 8 points in 4 games. This is the kind of performance a team needs from its superstar. Steve Larmer is clicking on all cylinders too. Consequently, he's another big reason why the engine is humming. Larmer has exactly the same numbers as Roenick. 4 plus 4, 8 points in 4 games. In his 10th full season in Chicago, Larmer is the most driven Blackhawk to bring a Stanley Cup to the Windy City. The forwards are definitely effective.
It's got to be a nightmare for other teams. They get in so quick, they get things done, they create turnovers, and they play smart at the same time. They're not taking the penalties, and they're not getting their sticks up, and they're doing everything they can to win.
The real force turning Chicago's wheels, Chris Chelios, quarterbacking the team from the blue line. Chelios scored 1 goal and set up 6 others, including Hronek's overtime winner in Game 3. Chelios has once again staked his claim as one of the best offensive defensemen in hockey. Finally, the Blackhawks won on special teams. They were 6 for 24 on the power play and killed all 19 penalties. Credit Keenan for team discipline.
They were on a mission. I mean, they were hungry, like, you wouldn't believe. And they were, executing all facets of the game. Their power play was great. Penalty killing, 5-on-5 situations, forechecking. I mean, they did it all.
The Hawks played as well as I've seen a team play in a lot of years. Too much Smith and Chelios, too much Hronek, Larmer, Graham, Sutter, and Belfour, I guess.
After a record 11 straight playoff wins, Team Blackhawk has the pole, is fueled up, and ready to go.
Well, it kind of puts me in the mood for go-karting. In the American